The council sought to focus its attention on the plight of the hostages still being held in Gaza for over 10 months in the aftermath of 6 hostages being killed by their captors at the weekend, even as the plight of Palestinians in Gaza remained a major concern for the international community.
At least 101 hostages are still held in Gaza. They are still denied humanitarian visits. Accounts of released hostages and other reports indicate they are likely being held in horrific conditions, with some being subject to violence, including sexual violence and other forms of abuse. I echo the words of the Secretary General once again. All hostages must be released immediately and unconditionally. For as long as they are held, in accordance with international legal obligations, they must be treated humanely and allowed to receive visits and assistance from the International Committee of the Red Cross.
A view echoed by the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs that again called for an immediate ceasefire that could see the release of all hostages and bring much-needed relief to the hell-on-earth scenario in Gaza.
Respect for international humanitarian law and international human rights law is not optional. Allow me to restate that hostages must be released, civilians must be protected, and their essential needs must be met. This Council and all member states must use their influence to ensure compliance, including by exerting diplomatic and other pressure and cooperating in pursuing accountability. We once again appeal to Council members and all member states to achieve an immediate cessation of hostilities and a sustained ceasefire in Gaza and to de-escalate the situation in the West Bank.
The Council also heard from the director of the Schneider Children's Medical Center near Tel Aviv, explaining the horrific toll brought on by the captivity of children after some hostages were released into their care after 50 days.
All of these children underwent unimaginable, horrific events when their closest relatives being murdered or taken with them to captivity. Children are innocent bystanders of any war. Sadly, children are known to be unintentionally hurt in many wars as innocent bystanders. This should always be avoided. It should never happen. I'm here today as an Israeli pediatric physician and head of one of the leading pediatric centers in the world to tell you no child should ever go through what the children and civilians of Israel have gone through on October 7th.
I thank the Slovenian presidency.
This Israeli human rights activist accused her government of betrayal, arguing it did not want the return of the hostages, but rather seeks to continue the war with Hamas indefinitely.
Our government is cynically exploiting our collective trauma to violently advance its project of cementing Israel control over the entire land. To do that, it is waging war on the entire Palestinian people, committing war crimes almost daily. In Gaza, this has taken the form of expulsion, starvation, killing, and destruction on an unprecedented scale. This goes beyond revenge. Israel is using the opportunity to promote an ideological agenda.
As the world waits for a ceasefire under the auspices of US-led mediation, Washington's envoy urged colleagues not to lose patience with a process that has simply not delivered on expectations.
Diplomacy is not a matter of snapping our fingers and voila. It takes hard work. It takes effort. And unfortunately, it takes time. It has not failed. After all, it was diplomacy that helped secure the release of more than 100 hostages in November. And it is through diplomacy that we aim to bring the remaining hostages home and finally put this horrific conflict on a path toward a durable conclusion.
As President Joe Biden said earlier this week, hope springs eternal. Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.